Hi guys, my name is Shell. Thanks for tuning into my channel. And before we start, I just want to say thank you for tuning in to all of my videos. If you haven't, it's all in a playlist so you can go back and watch the other videos. But yeah, it's just been a really good time. I've had a lot of fun doing the research and being able to just talk about this and overall becoming a more aware human being. So that's all I really have to say. Let's just jump into part 5. In part 5, what I'm going to be talking about in this video is what we can do immediately to help push this issue forward and have things change. And the first thing I think is super important in all of this is to support the petitions you see and keep spreading the word. Our top priority as a community is that these people get the justice that they deserve. By having these cases brought to justice, they will serve as an example for times to come, so officers don't think that what they're doing is okay. By supporting these petitions, you can help donate so these victims don't go broke fighting in court, but also be aware of who you're donating to. A popular petition website is change.org, but know that when you donate any sort of money towards that website, it doesn't go towards the people behind the petition, it just goes towards keeping the website up. Donate to reputable activists and organizations so they have the funds to collect the right resources and people to make affirmative change. Make sure where your money is going is important and it's not just feeding into something that doesn't directly help the cause. The next thing we need to do is to educate ourselves so we can understand our rights, what we can do to change things, and the specific policies and bills that the government tried to pass. We need to first be educating ourselves in history because the government uses similar tactics over and over again to manipulate a group of people towards a common cause. Governments usually have a similar agenda. They usually work towards one thing, and that is power and money. Next, we need to educate ourselves in government, institutions, and laws. There are so many bills and laws passed under our noses that we don't really hear about or we don't really understand. Those things are made to be that way. These bills and laws are written so it isn't something easy to read by the normal population. It takes a lot of work to read through these, and after you even do read through them, sometimes it doesn't even make sense because you're not a lawyer, you're not an English major, you're not trained to be reading these big ass words and then putting all of this together. You're just going to be confused after. So by trying to educate ourselves a little bit more, we can see the things that they try to pass under our nose and make difficult to understand. By educating ourselves in government and institution, we better understand the ways and places they refuse to give us power that works to uphold their hierarchy. The next step in educating ourselves is on the history and experiences of minority groups, including Black and Indigenous lives. So we can work from a different narrative than the normal colonialist narrative that we've been raised to believe is the only narrative, so we have a better chance at rewriting the future. Next, after we are able to educate ourselves, is to educate the people around you. Educate your children, educate your family, educate your friends. There needs to be more transparency in how we discuss these issues and how we teach them to children. Anthony Peterson did a really insightful TED Talk about this topic, and he explains that what we usually teach to children is that there are different races, but it shouldn't matter. But what we should really be teaching is that there are no different races, but skin color does matter. Anthony Peterson believes that racial silence handicaps our understanding and robs people of an essential part of one's identity. There's too much discomfort in admitting the acted out differences of race, and many people feel that these sort of discussions about race automatically antagonizes something. And when we do have discussions about race, they're too often because it follows after a cultural event, and everyone starts sharing inputs and perspectives that don't align. Like right now, the reason this is such a huge topic of discussion at the dinner table is because something huge happened. Something huge happened like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor's, and that is the reason why it's become such a hot topic to be talking about. But when these sort of conversations are only brought up when it's a hot topic, it becomes a more stressful environment to try and learn and make a point in. Anthony Peterson says that teaching people to be colorblind leaves them blindsided. So we need to be having these conversations more, and it should be a natural part of growing up and a natural part of discussion and just understanding the world around you. But it needs to be more honest, and we can't just be blind to things anymore. That's why it doesn't mean anything when you say I don't see color, because you obviously see color, and the world does treat different colors different ways. So instead of being blind to that, we need to be educating ourselves in those specific instances so we understand what's not fair and what's not right, and we learn to make them fair and to make them right. A next step that we can do to help change things right now is to check yourself. What ways do you contribute to this discrimination? We need to start recognizing racism at different levels. We've already briefly gone over institutional racism, but under institutional racism, we have to acknowledge the initial historical insult towards these groups of minority, like the Indigenous and Black folks. We have to recognize and accept that they do experience structural barriers, and we need to start learning to see the implications of stereotypes and societal norms. And we need to recognize the inherent unearned privilege that we might have, and we need to learn to appreciate those. We also need to be aware of our inactions in times of need and strive to try and change that. It is okay to be uncomfortable about these topics because it's something that we've been taught to be uncomfortable about, but we need to learn to speak up about it. We need to learn to read books about it, and we need to learn to talk when something's not right. Even myself, after doing all of this research, it's still uncomfortable. I still have friends in my group who say the N-word, and they're not Black. They don't have the right to say the N-word, but because there's so many other friends around it, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I didn't say anything out against those instances, but I need to, because by not saying something, I'm being complicit in this issue. Those are instances of inaction that all of us can make a change towards. The next sort of racism I want to talk about after institutional racism is personally mediated racism. Do you maintain or participate in prejudiced behavior just because it's not yet condemned by societal norms? This includes believing into a stereotype because you believe that's legit just the way those certain folks are. This also includes treating them a different way just because of their skin color. Next, in personally mediated racism, do you participate in acts of commission? This may be seen as moving to the other side of the street just because you see someone who is specifically Black, although you might not do that to someone who was white. Or do you contribute to acts of omission? Do you give less attention to Black or Indigenous folks as a server because you don't think they have the money to tip? As a teacher, do you treat your minority students differently? Even as a nurse, do you give different people different amounts of attention just because you believe something about them that isn't true, or you don't think that they deserve a specific type of service because you don't particularly like them? And last in personally mediated racism is maintaining structural barriers. Again, do you provide poor nursing services, or as a homeowner or someone who owns property, do you deny certain groups of people rent because of the race that they are, because you think that they might stink up your home or damage the inside of your house? By doing those things, you're maintaining a structural barrier, and you don't have to be white to maintain structural barriers. It's just the way you treat other people. The last type of racism I want to talk about is internalized racism. If you are not a minority, you have to recognize that you reflect a system of privilege. When you watch shows or you watch anything on screen, you see on-screen representation all the time. Even when you go shopping, do you see things that represent you when you go shopping? Is it difficult for you to find things that are made towards you and made for you? Next in internalized racism, are you reflecting societal values that you don't necessarily agree with? Again, this goes back to having negative stereotypes towards different groups of people, just because those stereotypes are what we've been told to believe. Next, do you undermine collective action? When you see all of these things happening, and you know that there's a lot of talk on these issues and people are very emotionally heated, do you roll your eyes at what's happening? Do you not speak out against what's happening? Do you not do your research? Do you not feel like you need to do that research? Do you not feel like there needs to be that change? You're undermining collective action. You're part of the community, and just because you are not them doesn't mean that you shouldn't be supporting them. And last in internalized racism is, do you have an eroded sense of individual value? Do you believe that you are worth less just because society around you has told you that you're worth less? You're not worth less. Fuck it, we're all here on this planet together. You were that sperm that won. You deserve to be here because you're that one in whatever the fuck number odds that survived. And you worked your ass off to be here. So yeah, you deserve to be here. You deserve to go to school. You deserve to get that donut. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to love yourself. Everyone deserves happiness and everyone deserves love and respect. We need to educate and work on ourselves before we can functionally rally up together and deconstruct institutional racism, because this is a huge issue. This is like the final boss of things that we can change. And if we can't even work on ourselves, how can we rally up as a community, as a country, to push for these sort of changes? The last thing I want to talk about in being more proactive in this movement is by being more conscious of the direction of your actions and being more conscious of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. This means supporting Black and Indigenous businesses. Be more aware of what brands you're supporting and direct your money to businesses you believe in and in causes that benefit and empower your community. Unfortunately, the money that you put towards McDonald's and the money you put towards Walmart may be a cheaper, easier option, but those businesses overall handicap and support the things you don't want to be supporting. They're the ones who put their money towards the prison complex. They're the ones that are still pushing for things that don't benefit your communities, and they're the ones draining wealth from those communities. So if you do your research and you don't agree with different things that the companies you put money towards are doing, you don't have to put your money towards them anymore. By being more open-minded and attentive to BIPOC trying to do different startups, you are giving them a better chance of doing something. BIPOC creatives in music, art, and production are going to work towards things that represent the things that they grew up around, and they're going to be hiring people that are similar to them, and they're going to be diversifying those areas that they work in. Same thing with BIPOC people trying to obtain higher roles in government or influential positions. It is very hard for them to be gaining traction in those sort of environments. So if you believe in them, we need to be helping them. We need to be aware of them, and we need to see them and let them know that they're seen by giving them our support. So see them, be open-minded to them, listen to them, and give them your time. We need to be supporting the diversification of the market, and we need to be supporting and creating more options that were previously overlooked. So everything I talked about now isn't everything like any of my other videos. It's just a start, and all of these things are well within our capabilities as people to do, and it's something that we should be doing. It makes things better for us, and it makes things better for our future. But yeah, this was a really long series, so if you were able to tough it out for all 5 videos, I thank you so very much for watching me for that long. If you think what I'm saying needs to be shared and you like what I'm saying, please like and share with your friends, and just please join me for this ride. It's gonna be a fun one. That's all I have here, guys. That's it. This is all I have. Thanks for watching. I hope to see your lovely faces again in the next video, and I'll catch y'all later.